And so on.
Yeah, right. All right, 8 January 2024, the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. It is 7:05. Seated today are Robert Wisnia,
Lauren Francesi.
Lauren Francesi, I was going to mispronounce your name, so sorry. Hank Nussbaum, Sean, and
Celia's not here.
Celia's not here, and Cal Watsky. Okay, so, and we're hearing an appeal from there it is. I knew I'd find it eventually. Okay, so we're here, an appeal for the Arcadia Hotel LLC, Mike Holtzman at 87 Beecher Road. So is Mike here?
Yes, hello.
Hi. So if you wouldn't mind just step, or,
Be the gentleman and stand, but what my wife said, because she's got as much of the historic
we
record.
can, we can bring over another chair if you'd like.
I'm going to apologize in advance, I have a continuous blood monitor, and it may go off. Is that neat?
Okay.
Just letting you know.
No worries.
Apologies in advance.
So if you would just give us your name and
Sure.
address,
Yes.
and we'll be all set.
Michael and Abigail Holtzman, we live at 87 Beecher Road in Woodbridge.
Okay, so,
We'll summarize briefly. There are two dwellings on the property, one of which is known as the caretaker's residence. And from the historical record, anecdotal record, and the government's records, this has always been treated as, and always been perceived, and always been used as a contiguously inhabited dwelling. There's been a caretaker that we've identified, goes back to the 20s. Again, most of the documentation you have in front of you shows you at least the age of the structure, going back to the contemporaneous to the building of the main house. The previous caretaker, one of the caretakers from about 50 years ago, lives next door to us. He's attested to having known the daughter of the builder of the house. There's always been a caretaker in that house. There are ornamental fixtures in the house that go back to that period that are residential fixtures. These are that have been dated. They're marked and dated from the early 1920s. There's maps and there's GIS surveys, and there's lots of things that identify it as not just a structure, but as an occupied dwelling. The town has always considered an occupied dwelling until this year, when the property was put up for sale, and it raised attention that this was not in fact a dwelling. It was to be treated as, sort of an outbuilding. So that's what we're contesting. That's what we are appealing to you for a variance, to have it recognized as we believe it has been adequately going back to the early part of the 20th century.
Prior to zoning.
Prior to zoning, so there has been no kind of debate at that time as to its characterization. But again, that's why so much of this is not just from the historical record, even the government's own records, which we've gone through with some detail, but from the anecdotal kind of oral history of this house, because there is a living caretaker who lived there some 50 some odd years ago, who knew the owners, knew the builder, knew the previous caretaker that would take it back to this period. So again, from our standpoint and from the record standpoint, it's a contiguously inhabited dwelling, not simply an outbuilding. And again, just from some of the historical characteristics in the house, the details in the house, the use of plaster, the use of ornamental heating units, these were resident, and these were built, again, in the 1920s. They're dated and marked and stamped that way. So we're aware of it. We haven't been able to do, just because it's happened quickly, get into sort of real anthropology to find out the names, social security numbers of the people who live there, other than Bill, who lives next door, and who has written to us and attested to us that he in fact was a caretaker, and that he knew the previous caretaker that took it back to the middle or early part of the 20th century. So that's our appeal to you. Again,
to be honest, I don't understand what you're trying to get at the end of this.
Yeah.
Well, can you also repeat what the change was that happened this year?
I'll let Abigail summarize what we're.
The change essentially came up when we went to sell our house. We had the building inspector come. We had to replace some sheetrock. He then told us that the entire structure was not legal. And so that was kind of what began the whole process. It's not exactly, we're not arguing what we use it for. We've had just friends and family stay in it, but what we were told by building was that this was never a permitted building. It was never erected with the permit, which of course it wasn't done because it was original to the estate house. So that's what we're trying to
So we
get
want
confirmed
designate-
to,
It's
that
more of a
it's just.
validation of that because there's a dispute with the town, and obviously there's gonna be tax implications to having the two residents, we understand all that, we're fine with it.
We've been
It's really-
taxed for having two residents, and
Sounds
it has
perfectly
been
cool with it,
since
yeah.
I put
Perfectly
in tax
cool
records
taxes.
from 1920 or 21, showing that it was taxed as two residencies.
So the outcome that we're
Is this
looking for
Mr.
what-
Klein's former house?
Yes,
Yes.
Richards. Mhm.
Okay, and this was recently, so it was sold not
Yes.
too many
We
years
bought-
ago,
we
and
bought
you
the
bought
house
it, and
about
a year
it's
and a
up,
half ago.
but it's up for sale again.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you're trying to seek a permit to validate the sale? Is that?
No, it would help the sale to know for a potential buyer that this is a legitimate structure, that they're not going to have to either make dramatic, renovations to in order to make it a legal residential structure, that it is in fact
I
designated.
used to
that way.
party in that.
Oh, no
In the
kidding.
carriage house?
It's a good place for a party.
Yeah. So, but you're trying to sell the property.
We're in the process of selling the property, but we want this kind of out of the way so that it's designated appropriately and there's no question about it. Because I think a lot of the families that we're looking at, two of them are doctors at Yale and have elderly family and want to use this as
As a-
property
yeah.
and don't want to walk into a
And,
nightmare.
and right now our realtors are having to disclose this is an illegal
Yeah,
resident.
Right.
Exactly. So
Which is
it's
not-
not good for the sale.
Yeah.
When you purchased it, did you know, or did?
No,
The title came up clean. It's been sold multiple times, I think 6 times.
that's a problem.
And it's never had any issues with it. So it hasn't been until this year that
it came
it's
above the
been an
radar.
issue.
It came above the radar. And again, from the town standpoint, from a taxation standpoint, from the town's even the records, we were in dusty records for 4 hours today. It's always been considered a residence, a caretaker's house. However, just during this process of trying to sell it, close permits, the inspector made this judgment, this analysis. And that's really what we're trying to get clarified so that we are able to both reassure a potential buyer, but also not be in trouble ourselves.
So just to give you a little bit of back history,
Yes.
zoning obviously took place in 1932. And prior to that, there were any number of houses that had 2 dwellings within them and whatnot. So after 1932, there were a number of them that came back and got variances for permission from the zoning board of appeals to, in a sense, legitimize the fact that they had a 2-family house. When they came in, my suggestion to them was to come before you with the history that they have so that it officially can get recorded that it is something, because there's nothing in the files that we have in the building department files that actually sanctifies this
Right.
particular unit as a dwelling unit. The assessor's cards show it, but the assessor, when she goes out, is looking at something and recording what she sees. She's not judging, or he's not judging, whether or not what's there is actually in compliance with the zoning regulations. So, there was a prior history for something like this. It was done at 821 Fountain Street, where again, it was an older house, where there was a caretaker who was in a separate garage unit. And so what I suggested to them was to go back through the records, see what they could find, and present whatever evidence they could find to you, so that you, if it's your choice, can make a finding that this is, a second residence in this dwelling. The dwelling itself, the garage, antedate the zoning regulations. They were built in the 20s? 20s. So they antedated the zoning regulations. We don't have building permits that go back that far. Prior to our current building inspector, there was Terry Gilbertson, and Terry at some point, I know, was discussing with the then owners whether or not this was actually a dwelling unit or not, but it never came to fruition in actually having a finding. So that's why it's
We're in that
before you
limbo,
now.
right? And
So
so there's not a lot of
to-
extant records going back that
so-
far.
2 quick questions.
Sure.
Didn't zoning recently, in the last year or so, say that accessory buildings are,
You can have an accessory dwelling unit. Unfortunately, our accessory dwelling units The way that particular part is written, it says that you're supposed, if it's in a garage, it can be in an outbuilding, but if it's in a garage, and there is a garage underneath
Underneath,
this,
right.
that one of the walls is supposed, for the dwelling part, is supposed to open to grade, and this is all on the second floor at this stage of the game.
There's an entry stairwell that goes up.
The entry
But that's
is great.
not, an open to grade. What they're looking at is part of the actual living unit, for whatever reason, being open to grade. So for them to try to make it an accessory dwelling unit under the existing regulations would be somewhat complex to do. We haven't even, I don't think, looked at the area that's there, because the current accessory dwelling unit regulations do limit the size of an accessory dwelling unit to no more than 30% of the existing dwelling, or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. So we were trying to keep that in abeyance, coming to you guys first to see what your determination might be, and then go from there.
Okay, so now my second question, they want this to be sold as a separate
No, it's
No,
gonna be part of the
one
same
part
parcel.
of the parcel?
It will just be recognizing that there is a dwelling unit
Got
in the
it.
upper portion of the garage. which
Okay, so
is
we don't
part
have
of
to,
this
we don't
part.
have to worry about a legitimate building lot?
Correct.
No, this
Okay.
is just legitimizing, if you so choose,
Right,
having two dwellings on the same property. I should note that, Mr. Wisnia had called earlier today, and in the letter that you got, there's a reference to sections of the zoning regulations. Those were taken from, because I gave them the example of that, 821 Fountain Street. Our regulations have changed since then. So that's why I gave you a copy of those particular sections of the regulations that were in place when that particular application was submitted. So that's why you have that.
okay, one other question, didn't we allow a historic house on Racebrook?
Yes, we've had
And
another historic house.
that is a, basically a second dwelling on that parcel.
Correct.
So we have a precedent,
You have that precedent, and as I say, you also have the one of 821 Fountain Street. And as I say, there are also historically other ones that came before this board
okay,
during the 30s, early 40s, where they apparently were legitimizing for perpetuity that there were two dwellings in a single-family residential zone.
okay.
And Henry, we did look at that precedent, the house on Racebrook, just to compare its both structurally and the situation of really analogous, if you see the two. So we were very mindful of the precedent. I'm sorry, Sean.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, so my takeaway is that there's precedent, several cases of precedent for this. And somewhere along the way, something slipped through the cracks in terms of making sure this was documented as it should be.
Right.
Is that pretty
That's
much-
our view.
Okay, that's how I'm seeing it.
Okay. Any other board members have any questions?
Well, I just, in terms of the use of this house, is it can just be rented separately out to the public? Does it have to be a family? I don't, is there any?
The zoning regulations don't stipulate that it has to be a family member. A matter of fact, with the accessory dwelling unit regulations that the state recently enacted, that's a specific thing that they don't allow a zoning commission to require, is that there be a familial relationship between someone in an ADU and someone in the house, that it can be used as a rental property or,
Or not.
whatever.
The people who've looked at the house so far have all met a similar kind of profile. Both of them are coming in from Boston or elsewhere. They're both families that were planning on making an offer. Both had kind of elder family members. So we noticed that pattern. I don't think there's really a rental culture for that property, or at least where we are. But
Yeah,
that's
it
at
came
least
up, it
what we
came
see.
up in my search because I'm searching for a very similar situation. I have an elder family member
Yeah.
that I want to come move in with me, and this type of property is
Yeah.
what brings
Rare.
people in.
Yeah, it's exactly what brought them in.
Which is why this has been an
It is
issue.
a little bit of a thorn, so
We're so, yeah.
I'm grateful you heard us.
Oh, it's-
Okay. And any other, so no other discussion? Okay, so we'll close. And,
We should ask if there's any.
oh yeah, I'm sorry. Any neighbors who, yay or nay? Just interested citizens? Okay. All right, so now we can close.
And we should have a motion to do so.
Who would like to?
I'll make a motion close.
Second.
Okay, excellent. So, and let's vote on that? Okay, it's unanimous, all right,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, good
Well,
luck.
you can hang out while we,
Oh,
you're welcome to work, we're gonna,
Close the hearing.
no, it's up to you.
leaving.
that was very official close.
Well, that was to the discussion part, so now we
But
can
you're waving
discuss.
at us. You guys all put your hands up, that was a
And we
group
can-
wave.
So now the board can discuss it, and then we'll vote, and then you may want to hear what we have to say.
Of course
Or
we
may
do.
not, you
No,
know.
we do for sure.
Okay,
I move to approve.
I'm sorry?
I move to approve.
Second.
One second.
Okay, there you go. Let's vote
Can
on
you
that.
just state something for the record, Blaine?
Oh,
It's
The
continu-
application has been approved.
it's continuing of long-term use of the property, basically.
Okay. Do we have enough, Chris?
That's, yeah. 'cause
Chris
that's
is
in the
happy, and
record.
once Chris is happy, we're all happy. Okay, so
There we
now,
go.
so now we have a motion, we can vote on it. All in favor? Okay, it's
Okay.
unanimous.
So,
It
Good
has now
luck
been
with
so blessed.
okay. So good luck with
That's
it.
it, we have to.
Get something to eat.
Yeah, you have to maintain a sense of humor.
All right.
I'm Celia, by the way. I had COVID last week, so I'm not gonna
That
shake
was my
hands,
first
but,
Appreciate
are you no,
Go
new
around.
board member or alternative?
Um,
It's nice to meet you.
he was just,
I thought they made them leave.
Spot?
yes.
Okay,
Okay,
gotcha.
you've still
No,
got
they can-
business
He's a
to
friend.
transact. You've got
We have
minutes
minutes
that you
approved.
formally have
Okay,
to
yes,
sign.
we're not done yet.
Did you know you were running again?
Okay, we have minutes to approve.
Yeah. And then, hi, I'm Celia. We haven't met.
Hi, Lauren Francese, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Are you a board member or an
What's that?
alternative?
I'm an alternate.
Okay, so you
Oh,
took
thank you.
Joy's spot?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to
Celia.
meet you.
Okay,
didn't
so we
expect to
do,
be
we have
voted on
minutes.
anything at all.
information in a very concise way.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right, so the next item is approval of minutes
Oh, yeah.
from 10 July, 8 August, and a special meeting on 30 October, all 2023.
I motion that we approve the minutes. for
I'll
those
second it.
Okay.
I read them. I wasn't here.
Okay, all in favor of Sean's motion? Okay, unanimously passed.
We can
So-
approve them all in one motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
There you go.
there we go. Efficient.
Okay. Any other business which may come? I guess there's no other business, right?
Not at the moment. Actually, just note to our two new members, that one of the requirements now under state statute is that you have to have 4 hours of training. Initially, the first year that you serve on a commission, you have to complete those 4 hours in that first year. Thereafter, you have to complete an additional 4 hours, but you have 2 years to do it. So I can send you some links of some recordings that were done by the Council of Governments to provide that. It's mandatory that at least one of the hours that you, get trained in is regarding housing, because that's a hot issue within the town, or the state, if the state's again. And then if you watch those, we also try to have some, whatever comes across that is a training thing, we'll let you know about. And then whenever you do watch or you take advantage of some of the training, just let me know so that I can log it. Because we do have to certify by March of every year that the members are certified. So for now, you guys have an entire year to get certified. So, I'll send out those links and whatnot.
So,
And-
because I did the one you sent out, is
Yeah.
there a new one for an additional 4 hours?
There's nothing that's come up yet for this
Okay.
year because we're just starting
Yeah.
it, but there will be stuff that's coming.
Okay,
But now, the 4 of you have 2 years to do your next 4-hour stint. And you guys have just 1 year to get it done.
I have a question. I did look at some of them. Are there exams or things that we need to?
No, it's just on your honor saying that you've attended it. If you do an in-person one, or sometimes if you participate when it's a Zoom meeting, they'll actually send me a certificate indicating that you participated because you were present during there. But because there's this recording, this stage of the game, I'm just trusting that you're actually watching it. And they're informative, you know.
I have a second question. What do we do with information that we get by mail and?
Now you can either give it to me and I'll recycle it, or you can recycle it at home.
Oh, okay, so it's not considered privileged.
Nope.
Okay.
It's a public record. Anybody who walked into the office downstairs would be able to look at it.
Okay.
So Chris, with the existing members, so I did some training last year. So that last year was, 2023 was year one of two that we have, right?
No, that was you only had that 1 year to complete 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
And to the best of my knowledge, you guys did the 4 hours that you
Yeah.
needed to do.
Oh, okay.
So now, in the next coming 2 years, you have to do an additional 4 hours, but
Okay.
you now have 2 years to do that.
I see.
So
Okay.
anybody coming on new only gets a year, and after that, you have 2 years to update yourselves with new training.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Good, thanks.
But that housing requirement always remains, that 1 hour, out of whatever 4 hours you're doing, there's always an hour of housing that's involved.
And that was the one that we did at the JCC then?
That was the one that
Few
was
months
at the
ago.
JCC. So I have a link to that one, and then I also have the link to the South Central Regional Council of Governments training, which was a 4 hour training, which also included an hour worth of housing. So,
All right, thank you.
Okay, so now we need a motion to close.
So moved.
Wow, that was fast. All right, all in favor? Done. All right, 7:25. What a team.